okay, let's just try something out. And I don't know how anyone's going to receive this, but I'm just going to stop trying to control how people receive me. The first thing I've noticed is that both when I was growing up in church, as well as now having been married, divorced, interacting with male family members, that people actually think I don't like men, which is ridiculous because I love men. Honestly, I love men probably more than I can truly articulate appropriately on this recording. But instead, I'll use this time to process and maybe unpack what I feel most people, and particularly men, find uncomfortable about being around me. Because it's not me. I'm comfortable being me. I like being me. I like being me exactly the way that I am, especially as somebody who is absolutely obsessed with self-improvement and becoming a better version of myself. I feel so good about the version of me that I am presenting to the world on a daily basis, not at every given moment, right? I'm not perfect. But in the moments that I am present and fully trying to do the best to make the most out of a situation, I mean well. And most people don't get that mixed up. Most people know that when I show up, I'm bringing love, even though it might be a little tough. And so, those people who do find themselves around me for a consistent amount of time, who eventually start to get offended from my high standards, only find out that my high standards are impartial. I don't hold only myself accountable. I hold everybody accountable. And that is because I am constantly improving. And so the version of me that you got yesterday is already competing with the version of me that you're getting today. And so I think it's important to have this conversation so that people not only can have a better understanding of who I am and how I show up in the world, but also so that people can benefit from the value of what I'm bringing when I do show up in the world. And so, let's start with standards. In raising my son, I found that it's important, no matter what it is that you do, that you set a goalpost. You know where you're headed. There are different endpoints that you can aim towards. But if you're not actually aiming towards something, you're literally going nowhere. You're just wandering. It's just like if you go to an amusement park. If you don't choose which activity you're doing, you're just wandering. And that's if you're actually moving your feet. Because if you actually haven't made an intention to go, then you're just standing there. You can look around, you can hear what's happening around you, you can smell what's happening around you, you can feel from the touches of your body, the temperature, the people moving around you, but you yourself don't actually have to be moving in order to understand what's happening, what's available, what's possible around you. But the only way to take advantage of all of those things is if you make an intention to move. And then once you've made an intention to move, you have to make an intention to move in a particular direction. Are we going towards the theme park? Are we going towards the roller coasters? Are we going towards the merry-go-round? Are we going towards the food in the concession stands? Are we going towards this other theme park section that has like movies and things? You need an intention. That, I think, many people mistaken as not necessarily a standard. And it is. You have to make an intention to go at all. And so, when people, and I want to make this broadly so as to not center or focus on any particular person, I would like to invite people, and especially men, to engage the idea that just like as a society, we have all moved away from certain traditions, such as gathering together, such as spending time with our elders, such as intentionally going to a church environment, such as there's so many traditions that we have stepped away from that we aren't actually intentionally going in a direction. grateful that I didn't get to choose, because then I wouldn't have got a chance to experience the beauty and the power that comes with bearing a child. And so I want to pause, because my education invites me to invite other people into this conversation, and say to those who are barren and those who do struggle with fertility, my heart goes out to you. I feel for you. And I don't know what that process is like. I remember having a space of time where I wanted to have more children, and it just wasn't time in that particular moment in my life. There were a lot of circumstances that were taking place during that time that I could see why maybe God did not want me to have a child, or maybe, right? And I've even experienced a miscarriage. And so having experienced that, I recognize the challenge of that heart space in a process that isn't going the way you want it to go. You have to figure out how to accept that that's just how it's going. But you still have to go through the process, right? And I won't get too graphic on here, because I don't know how I'm going to use this audio. But even with preparing for, for my body to dispose of the miscarried baby, right? That was a process. And that was a process that I wouldn't have chosen to go through for multiple reasons. But in order for me to be well after the disappointment, right, in order to, avoid any further disappointment with this body, we had to go through another process to get rid of the material that was left behind. So I say that to hold space for those who are holding different types of trauma in their bodies because of those types of processes. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And so once the process is over, here we are again, back into a body that has its own process that we don't always agree with. And yet, in order for us to achieve wellness, we have to come into some sort of relationship, a right relationship with our bodies that have processes that don't necessarily agree. Like, we don't necessarily agree with how it goes. We do have a relationship with our bodies. And I'm going to use women primarily in this conversation because that's just who I am. I am a woman. I am a woman whose body functions in different ways, and I've had to endure the complexities and layers of processes that take place in the midst of me being. It is not me trying, achieving. I am just being, and yet the process continues, and yet I must participate. Even if I choose not to move, the process is happening. Even if I choose not to create an intention for where at least I'm expecting to end end up at the end of this process, I still have to go through this process. So thanks be to God that I get to choose what the end of the process is going to look like for me, even though the process is going to do what it's going to do. The process is going to process. And so I get to decide, who am I going to become at the end of the process, because I've gone through the process a couple of times, because I've, had breasts for a little while, because I've had a menstrual for a little while, because I've nursed 2 children out of these breasts, because I've carried 2 children in this womb. I'm able to say, okay, I've been through this process before. There are some things that I cannot anticipate. There are some things that I cannot predict. However, there are some things that I can control. Therefore, I choose not to stand still, but I'm going to go while in this process, and I'm going to set my intentions on an end goal, an end experience. I'm going to participate in the molding of how me and this body are going to experience this together. Selah.